Your life, I guess, could have taken a very different turn. You know, clearly you had issues in your past and you paid the price for them. Do you feel in a way that the SBS saved you from perhaps a very different life?
Yeah, I'd say the Royal Marines and the SBS definitely saved me. That was my sort of lifeline that I had to separate myself from the streets of Essex at the time. So it definitely saved me and definitely made me the man, or formed part of the man that I am today.
The Brexit Secretary also has a history with the Special Forces, David Davis. Do you think it's formed part of the man that he is?
It definitely has to. I think being in the military, it's a different world. People don't realise it's such a different world, and it does show you a different insight into what's actually happening out there.
Yeah.
So it's more life experience, and it would definitely help form and better who you are as a person.
I think he was part of the reserves.
He was a TA, right?
TA.
Territorial.
I say nothing.
Well, how do you view that?
No, he's part of the brotherhood, you know, whether it's TA, whether it's, you know, whatever it may be. Everyone's doing a role, everyone's doing a job, and everyone has the same role to do to protect this country.
You've got women that you're encouraging to enter the new series. There's never been, as far as I'm aware, a female member of the SAS or SBS. Am I right about that?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
There was recently the first woman member of an infantry regiment, and she only lasted 2 weeks. She found it physically a lot harder than she felt. You know, I've got members of my family in the armed forces, and there is a concern that on the front line, particularly with infantry, probably with special forces in particular, that women may lack the physical side that is required for that. Is that a fair concern, do you think? I mean, have you met women that you think could be SBS, SAS?
No, it's definitely a fair concern. You know, you look at the forces in general. The woman, for example, done 2 weeks, and she said, look, put her hands up and said, you know, I'm just physically not strong enough at the moment.
Well, presumably there's men who also put their hands up.
100%.
A couple of weeks
it is a concern. But I think we should give women the chance. But at the moment, there's no women in the SAS or SBS. And to be in the SAS or SBS, you have to at least have done 5 to 7 years in an infantry unit. So I think it's a while until we're going to see women in the Special Forces.
The psychology of this interests me, about whether women are able to think the same as a trained killer, like you, like your colleagues in the Special Forces who do extraordinary work. But you talk in the book in quite an interesting way about this, that when you're there, it's satisfying to kill people. You feel like God, all this kind of stuff. When people read that cold, they're like, these guys are just, they're savages. Of course you're not, it's your job. You are trained to kill people. Do you think there's a difference in thought process for you and for most women you've met, perhaps, in the armed forces? Do they enjoy killing in the way that you clearly admit to doing?
I didn't admit to it was satisfying killing people. I said it was satisfying to get the job done, to have that mission success, which i.e. does result in having to pull the trigger. And that godlike feeling isn't killing people. It's actually being in that moment where you're surrounded with bullets flying over your head, where everything slows down, your body's in perfect sync, in perfect harmony, and it's almost as if you can control time. You can almost count the milliseconds, and that's what feels godlike, you know, because you're so in control, you're so in sync, not actually killing someone.
But you are, I mean...
And I think you have to be put through that experience to be able to know whether, you can deal with it, and whether you can process it and live with the decisions that you make.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think our Special Forces are probably the best in the world.
100%.
I certainly hear that from people from other countries, and you do remarkable work, but it takes a certain type of person. I mean, you all seem such nice guys, but I wouldn't want to meet you in a desert if I was up against you in a war, because you guys are the best trained soldiers in the world, right? And
ruthless
in your
and
case,
effective.
Yeah,
on the Navy side.
It has to be ruthless and effective. You're in a kill or be killed situation on a daily basis in Afghanistan, for example. So you have to be like that. I do not mix work with pleasure, because you can't do that on that level, because you're so in that zone.
A lot of people find it incredibly difficult when they leave. We know that. We think there are thousands of homeless veterans, for example. We've seen SAS heroes that we had to find a home for. And I find that it's a very difficult thing, I would imagine, to go from a battlefield with all your mates, doing a job for your country, and then basically going back to normal life.
Well, and your colleague on the programme, Jason Fox, has talked about his own PTSD after leaving the forces.
Well, you've got people like Foxy who, some of the best soldiers in the world who suffer from PTSD. So when I look at it like that, I think to myself, wow, it must be a real issue. But once you're in the military, you don't think of it as an issue. It's everyday part of your job. You're expected to do that. We're all volunteers at the end of the day. So we volunteer to put ourselves in harm's way. So we must sort of be able to process that and get on with it and live with it. But a lot of people don't.
You dedicated the book to your wife, Emily. You've got 5 children now.
5,
right?
yeah. That's correct, yeah.
Before you got happily married and all your kids, was it the best pulling line in the world to walk into a club and say, I am in the special boat service?
Yes.
Don't you have to,